What's going on, guys? We're getting a pullback day today from Bitcoin, from the Bitcoin miners, after a pretty good start to the new year, a start to 2026, what would typically be known as crypto winter. In this video, I want to go over CleanSpark's mining update. We'll glance at the chart. We'll also look at Bitcoin and what's going on there. Let's not waste any time. CleanSpark releases their December Bitcoin mining update. This just came out on January 6th here, and they increased their Bitcoin production more than 10% year over year. As said by their founder, chairman, and CEO, Matt Schultz, December closed 2025 with continued strong operational performance across our mining operations and digital asset management groups. We grew Bitcoin production despite ongoing network difficulty increases. Our operational strength and active monetization strategies are creating a durable foundation as we advance AI infrastructure plans in Georgia, Texas, and beyond, making strong progress with potential tenants, and will continue pursuing strategic energy opportunities to support long-term portfolio growth. They also had to curtail some power in Tennessee. CleanSpark in Tennessee briefly curbed their Bitcoin mining power consumption by hundreds of megawatts during one of the coldest days of the year and part of a long-established flexible consumption capability. The company powered down operations across 11 sites in the state within 10 minutes after they were requested to do so by the Tennessee Valley Authority's request, enabled by CleanSpark's customized communication system. This ability is called demand response and helps balance supply and demand, prevents blackouts, and reduces the need for additional power plants or infrastructure. This curtailment demonstrates our continued commitment to being a reliable partner to utilities and the communities in which we operate, said by Scott Garrison, their Chief Development Officer and Executive Vice President. We remain focused on advancing processes that enhance efficiency and ensure our operations are fully aligned with the evolving needs of our partners. Some milestones in the year: their evolution, as many of you know, from a pure play Bitcoin miner to getting into AI, hiring Jeffrey Thomas as their Senior Vice President of AI Data Centers. They selected Submer as their first data center partner in North America. They entered the Texas market with acquired rights of a 271-acre site and long-term power supply agreements totaling 285 megawatts for AI data center. They closed their $1.15 billion convertible note offering. And getting into the numbers, in December they produced 622 Bitcoin. Their single day production was 20.59 as a peak. Their average was 20.07. And in the year 2025 they produced 7,746 Bitcoin. Their operational hash rate still stands at 50 exahash with an average operating hash rate of 47.2. Their peak efficiency is one of the best in the game with a 16.07 joules per terahash. A lot of the other Bitcoin miners are still in the low 20s, and they have a deployed fleet of 245,199 Bitcoin miners. As of the end of 2025, they have 13,099 Bitcoin. In the month of December, they sold 577 Bitcoin. I like seeing that. I'm glad that they are trimming. I think that is a wise decision at this time. They made $51,461,000 in the month of December from the sale of their Bitcoin, selling at an average of $89,210. Now looking at the chart, we're looking at a pretty rough day. Here's a pretty sizable red candle. The good news is we did just fill our gap from the running that we've seen earlier in the week and earlier in the new year. On the very end of December, we did get a bounce here on this longer term trend we've been in, this broadening pattern that started back in April of 2025. Now I did want to mention that we do have a potential headwind. Their earnings is approaching. Q4 wasn't great for Bitcoin. These Bitcoin miners are going to take an unrealized loss on their Bitcoin, so I'm personally not expecting great things in upcoming earnings. The good news is we do have until February 5 when they're going to report. Surprisingly, they have an estimate of a profitable quarter. I'm not personally expecting that. They expect a revenue of $205.94 million, which would be a decrease over the last quarter, but an increase in quarters before that. Most of you know what I expect from Bitcoin in the short term. I expect a test of the 50 MA on the weekly. This is what we have seen in the past two crypto winters, at least a test of the 50 MA on the weekly. For Bitcoin, it sits at about 101,000, and I am still expecting a run to that level in a somewhat short amount of time. I could be right, I could be wrong. I do think that'll be a good time to trim a little bit, whether you're talking Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners. CleanSpark will obviously depend on Bitcoin's direction. We're getting the first pullback in Bitcoin in a few days, and by no surprise, we're seeing the Bitcoin miners pull back a bit. I do personally think this trend is still gonna fill out over the short term, but I personally don't see CleanSpark going to new 52-week highs, probably not even close. I do think, however, we do have a good chance to test, the $15 level. Then it's a matter of the market either breaking out from that or finding it as resistance perhaps when Bitcoin tests the 50 MA on the weekly. Speaking of Bitcoin, we had our nice breakout from this descending trend that started at Bitcoin's peak in October, and we have seen almost nothing but green since, besides today. We did get rejected right at this level, these recent highs here. It's a lot clearer on the 4 hour, so let me show you that. We were talking about this yesterday, this level that Bitcoin needs to break. It basically came right up to it and got rejected. I do think we're going to get a retest, and if we can break this level, I do think Bitcoin is coming for that 50 MA on the weekly at about 101,000. Here it is on the weekly, just to provide a little bit more context. This is where the 50 MA is sitting at right now, right around 101,000. And we got a nice reaction out of our trend line here, this descending trend. Hopefully this weekly candle here closes in the green. In my opinion, that'd be a good sign. Despite this bit of a red day, I do believe Bitcoin's recent uptrend is still very much intact, unless we were to break down and possibly head towards the 50 MA on the daily at about 89,000. We would be breaking this ascending trend that we've been in for multiple days now. Keep an eye on it. Also keep an eye on this resistance level. We're either going to break down from this ascending trend, or we're going to break over this resistance level and come up to that 101,000 roughly, right about at this level here. I think it's very likely we see this from Bitcoin possibly in the next couple of weeks. But do keep in mind, just because we come up to the 50 MA doesn't mean we're going to continue. We're either going to find it as resistance like we have in the previous 2 cycles, or we're going to break over it for the first time in any crypto winter. I think this will be a very crucial thing to watch for. And people wondering if the cycle's broken, not broken, I think this will kind of tell you and give you a bit of context at least. But you can see that we find it as resistance, continue the bear market, find it as resistance, continue the bear market. I do believe we will have our chance to, at the very least, test it. The market, I think, is coming for that 50 MA on the weekly at about 101,000. And then it's up to the market to decide, is it going to break over and we're going to kind of break that norm that we've seen in the last 2 cycles, or are we going to find it as resistance and continue out this bear market, continue out 2026 as a typical crypto winter year. Always interested in your opinions. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you probably tomorrow.